Welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Vinitaly International Wine and Spirits Exhibition. The 54th edition of Vinitaly was held from the 10th to the 13th of April. If you missed it, don't worry. Go to vinitalyplus.com for on-demand recordings of all the sessions from the exhibition.
Welcome to Professore Attilio Scienza's newest book, translated and narrated by Richard Huff. This latest publication is part of the Mama Jumbo Shrimp series, entitled Mama Jumbo Shrimp Guide to Vine and Prejudice, Fake Science and the Search for the Perfect Grape. This is a great way to get a sneak peek at the book before it hits the shelves, so listen in and let the geeky knowledge seep into your ears, because we all need a little bit of Scienza.
Chapter 4. The Classification and Evolution of Species. Does it make sense to reopen the debate surrounding the taxonomy of the vine now? Aren't the conclusions of countless scientific studies, above all those of the last century, sufficient? The answer is obvious and can be found in the new understanding we now have about the genetic structure of the genus Vitis. Although it may be inconvenient for those scientists working in the field of viticulture, research ethics requires them to accept the results of their studies, even if they are unexpected. Alfred Wallace, the British naturalist and contemporary of Darwin, with whom he independently conceived the theory of evolution through natural selection, expanded on the theory of speciation, rejecting the hypothesis of a land bridge between continents and introducing the then new science of biogeography, the study of how and why species are dispersed across the planets. For Wallace, this theory was based on the belief that differences between related living organisms were the consequence of the independent evolution of a group within the same species. When this happened, as a result, for example, of continental drift or the demands of a different environmental context, the characteristic of the members of the new group would differentiate the new species from their ancestors. The existence of speciation, the creation of two species from one, was at odds with the theory of adaptation, the evolutionary process whereby an organism becomes better able to live in its habitat or habitats. Adaptation helps organisms perform certain tasks better, such as finding food or evading predators. Speciation, on the other hand, occurs when a single species splits into two or more contemporaneous descendant species, a process less easily explained by natural selection. Unfortunately, Wallace, like Darwin, failed to distinguish the different components of evolutionary history or phylogeny that produce different types of relationships: genealogy, divergence, polarity, or evolutionary direction. The legacy prevails of a kind of fundamentalist philosophy of science, which in the last 200 years has seen the main task of naturalists to be the creation of taxonomic categories, species, genus, families, classes, which has been superseded by the modern evolutionary synthesis, and which identified the starting point of the evolutionary process in the individual characteristics of the various populations. Over time, naturalistic, botanical, agronomic, physiochemical, and genetic competencies have alternated, integrated, and overlapped, leading to refinements in ampelography, the identification and classification of grapevines, in parallel with the formation of an increasingly structured and shared language. Despite this, there remained a widespread persistence until the beginning of the 19th century of a great skepticism regarding the usefulness, indeed, of the very possibility of a serious morphological taxonomic study of vines. Until the 1970s, the concept of allopatric speciation prevailed. According to this theory, a degree of geographical isolation, such as that between the American and Asian continents, was necessary for two populations to develop reproductive divergence. More recently, the concept of sympatric speciation has gained prominence, in which the divergence between two interfertile populations can also occur in the absence of geographical isolation. The American species of genus Vitis represent an ideal model for the study of hybridization and introgression because they are known to be potentially interfertile. In addition to the existence of so-called parent species, recent research has provided evidence of numerous gene flows between apparently genetically distant species, even hypothesizing that the current geographic distributions of the species are not necessarily predictive of the interactions that have occurred in the past, and that the behavior of the plants in the face of climate change, for example glacial cycles, may be idiosyncratic and have triggered the hybridization between different species. In North America, there are thought to be an estimated 19 native vine species, though some estimates put the figure at closer to 25 known species, mostly coming from the eastern regions of the Rocky Mountains. This great biodiversity within the American species represents a highly unexplored potential for producing new resistant rootstocks through hybridization. The current trend in classification has seen a reduction in the number of species, often the result of natural crossings, with the addition of new species discovered in China.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Italian Wine Podcast, brought to you by Vinitaly International Wine and Spirits Exhibition, the biggest drinks trade fair in the world. Remember to subscribe to Italian Wine Podcast and catch us on SoundCloud, Spotify, and wherever you get your pods. You can also find us at ItalianWinePodcast.com.
Hi guys, I'm Joy Livingston and I am the producer of the Italian Wine Podcast. Thank you for listening. We are the only wine podcast that has been doing a daily show since the pandemic began. This is a labor of love and we are committed to bringing you free content every day. Of course, this takes time and effort, not to mention the cost of equipment, production, and editing. We would be grateful for your donations, suggestions, requests, and ideas. For more information on how to get in touch, go to ItalianWinePodcast.com.